Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Monday, the 11th of September, 2023. I'm Michael Thompson. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about, so let's get going. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 closed up 0.5% today to 7,192 points after a bit of an afternoon recovery. It was pretty mixed across the day in terms of sectors. You had financials and consumer staples performing best. That was led by Magellan Financial, Bank of Queensland and Bendigo and Adelaide Bank. They all went well. All the big 4 banks actually climbed between 1.2% and 1.8%, so a pretty good day overall. The biggest drops were in IT and healthcare. Best on the bourse today was graphite producer Sierra Resources, up 7%. The business secured around $235 million for an operation in Mozambique. The iron ore miners all went pretty well. BHP, Rio Tinto and Fortescue all up around 1.1%, 1.2%, somewhere around there. The worst performer was recycling company Sims, which fell 10.6% today. It released forecasts of break-even earnings for the first quarter, which is attributed to tougher market conditions, subdued demand for steel and the weaker US market. On to story number 2, and the government's closing loopholes bill is under a bit of pressure from unions who are looking to get it expanded to cover independent contractors, including freelancers who work offline. Now, they're also going to push for labour hire laws to cover workplaces without enterprise agreements. The closing loopholes bill is due for a Senate inquiry that will report on February 1 of next year. But it is already shaping up to be a pretty rough few months of debate. Business groups think that any expansion similar to what the unions are proposing would make it just impossible in practice. Originally, this was billed as a gig worker proposal, but the union's expansion would include many different workers who do not typically consider themselves participants in the gig economy. Story number 3, how about this one? Macquarie analysts have looked at the data around health insurance and found something that is, in their words, uncanny. There is a correlation between the Rugby World Cup, surgeons taking leave, and lower private health insurance claims. The Macquarie analysts actually used surgical volume data published by Medicare and analysed them over the last 9 years. This turned into a note to investors titled Upside Risk on and off the field. It found that during the last 3 Rugby World Cups, claims were below seasonal norms by 300 basis points in volume, and that helps half-year margins. And this year, the Rugby World Cup runs for an extra week, suggesting that surgeons might be on even longer periods of leave. This theoretically means potentially a boost in profit for ASX-listed health insurers like Medibank and NIB. Story number 4, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission has encouraged businesses to double-check their contracts and remove any unfair terms or face millions in penalties. New Australian consumer law changes are kicking in from November 9, which will heap financial penalties on businesses using unfair terms in their standard contracts. Now, the maximum financial penalty for a business is either $50 million, 3 times the value of the benefit obtained from the contract, or 30% of adjusted turnover during the breach period. Basically, any way you look at it, they are big potential costs. The maximum penalty for an individual is $2.5 million. Many businesses use standard form contracts as it's a cost-effective way of doing it, but they offer them kind of on a take it or leave it basis that usually benefits the business who offers the contract. Some of the changes won't be retrospective, so they'll only apply to contracts when they're renewed or if they are new contracts to begin with. And finally, story number 5. First it was Germany, now it's Canada. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, a group of staffers and journalists have been stuck in New Delhi since last night trying to leave the G20 summit. This is because of a plane's technical issues. Trudeau's office said in a statement that the issues weren't fixable overnight and they'd be staying in India until alternate arrangements were made. Apparently, it is an Airbus aircraft, and it's not the first time that particular aircraft has experienced a few issues. And funnily enough, this seems to be a bit of a trend lately. We've talked about this previously. Germany's Foreign Minister, Annalena Baerbock, was forced to cancel a trip to Australia just a few weeks ago due to a problem with her government plane, which was also an Airbus aircraft. There you go. That's it for the afternoon report for Monday, the 11th of September, 2023. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the Tuesday edition of Fear and Greed Business News. I'm Michael Thompson. Enjoy your evening.